Okay, so now I'm going to go into the extended version of Tell Me About Yourself. So, both of my parents came from Lima, Peru. They came here before I was born, and really to seek out opportunity. My grandfather had been a pediatric surgeon in Lima, Peru, and eventually he brought his family over for various reasons. He wasn't able to practice medicine when he was here, but he was able to take care of us when we were young. And so I was always interested in medicine. I would say maybe even in high school I thought about it, but I just didn't have the grades. I really had just A's in PE and a lot of C's. And so with no clear path, I started community college. You know, I had an advisor, I remember at the time, who was like, here's your community college packet. See you later. Like, good luck. And I clearly remember that I felt bad that I was going to community college. And it was such a great opportunity. And I ended up going to Diablo Valley College. And people asked me what motivated me, and it was really the fact that I started a job at the same time. And the only reason I got this job, I was lifting weights, and there was a guy from high school that was there, and he was like, hey, you should check out this job. I think it's $15 an hour, and at the time I was making like $7 an hour, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna check out that job. That's a lot more money. And so I started that job, and that really motivated me because the people at that job were really nice, and they explained things to me, and the science behind it was pretty fascinating. I got to work on the Human Genome Project, and that, and then the community college was also great because they had so many resources. I took advantage of the tutoring that they had, and I did well. And then from there I transferred to UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley really kicked my ass. It was really hard, and the science courses that I thought were easy before and I was doing well at in community college were all of a sudden very difficult. And so I knew I wasn't ready to study for the MCAT at the same time, and so I took 2 years off, and I planned to take 2 years off, both to study for the MCAT and to also figure out what medicine was about. I grew up uninsured, and luckily we had my grandfather to take care of us, and he would prescribe, like when we get sick, he would prescribe antibiotics that you can get under the counter at Mexican markets. I was lucky to have that compared to other people in the community. And so I worked in a lab. That lab was awesome because I not only got to do basic science research, but I got to see it being applied and actually used with patients. And at the same time, I worked at at SF General, so a county hospital, where I got to translate Spanish. I got to take care of patients, and so I was just getting a lot more opportunities to figure out what medicine was about, and that I was interested in research, and I was interested in taking care of patients. And that just took time. I couldn't have done that when I was at Berkeley, and I couldn't have done that at community college. And at the same time, I was also helping to run a mentorship program, bringing Berkeley students to a middle school class, and that was also really awesome as far as the experience, as far as running a program, and as far as the experience of working and mentoring. And so what ended up happening is I actually got into several medical schools. I was pretty lucky about that. But really, I had a lot of help from a plastic surgery resident that I met, and I just met him. Just fortunately, I was in the ER, and he took me under his wing. I just asked him a bunch of questions. I even have an email that I specifically sent him. Say, hey man, can you help me out? I'd really appreciate it. And he responded. He looked over my entire application, and I was ready to go to UCLA at the time. And I had gotten rejected from Stanford, and he was a former graduate from Stanford. And he's like, why don't you just send a letter of appeal? You're doing a ton of research. You would make a really good fit. And I was like, really? You can do that? And I ended up doing exactly that. And I wrote a letter saying, hey, would you reconsider my application? I'm doing this and this now. I feel like I'm a good fit. And they responded. And so I ended up getting into Stanford. And it was my dream school at the time. I knew I was interested in surgery because of my grandfather, but it wasn't until I was at Stanford that I got to really figure out what field I was interested in. And so I started Stanford, luckily in a lab as well. And that lab, I got to do hands-on microsurgery, and I got to do shadowing really early on, and plastic and reconstructive surgery is the field that I quickly went to and figured out that was the best fit for me. Now, I was also interested in hand surgery, and that was from also shadowing and seeing cases. And what made me figure out what part of plastic surgery I thought I fit in was in potentially pediatric hand surgery. And that was from a trip that I got to go to it was in La Paz, Bolivia. And I was a translator and coordinator for that trip. And I was able to both help run the clinics and translate, and I got to see these amazing surgeries of helping kids that had these terrible congenital anomalies and terrible burns, and there weren't any hand specialists to take care of them. And so that made me really early on figure out that hand surgery was the best fit for me. And so that's what I did in my residency. Besides the intensive training that we get from head to toe, from facial reconstruction to breast reconstruction, I got to do some research doing in hand surgery as well, and eventually I applied for fellowship in hand surgery. And that's where I am right now, which is doing a full year of focusing on hand reconstruction. And I'm planning on doing a second fellowship to focus on pediatric hand reconstruction. And I'm hoping that that field is something I can focus on, both as far as trauma, microsurgical reconstruction, brachial plexus, and congenital anomalies. And so I'm looking forward to hoping to contribute to that field. And I'm also really interested in mentorship, and I was able to do that in undergrad, in medical school, in residency, and it becomes much harder in residency. And so that's why I'm much more active now in social media, and hoping that I can be a role model, and hoping that I can answer questions and get people to this next step, and helping to contribute to the field of medicine. And so that's me, and that's where I'm at right now, and I'm really looking forward to the next step, and I'm excited. And yes, it's been a really long road for me, but it's been really well worth it, and I'm looking forward to contribute to this field. Thanks for listening.